Alright. So, yeah, I'm just gonna let and yes, I do have the score up, just to let my opinion of this game speak for itself. Fire Emblem Awakening. So, if you want any further proof that if you want to know how much I have to say about this game, well, there's my first page of notes, my second and my third page of notes, third and fourth, fifth and sixth, seventh and eighth. Is that it? That's it. So, yeah, I've got a lot to say about this one. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Go figure. Might actually have to pause recording this to go stream, but we'll see. So, Fire Emblem Awakening, right? The purported savior of the franchise, as I adjust my webcam. Sorry about the light, by the way. Still haven't been able to buy, the different bulbs. So, Fire Emblem Awakening, the franchise savior. Now, that's the first thing I want to talk about. Yes, this game saved the franchise. Okay? Because the thing was the sales were basically of the franchise at this point was of Fire Emblem was not good. Now, there are conflicting reports of whether or not Nintendo threatened cancellation or were, neutral about it, or, or whether or not it was just a universally accepted thing that that this was going to be their last hurrah. But one way or another, they were told sell 250,000 units in Japan, or the franchise is getting the plug pulled. Because, that was the thing. Now, admittedly, they were always thinking of localizing Awakening, which is funny because I wish that mentality had been done for New Mystery of the Emblem, but let's not get into that. Regardless, though, Fire Emblem Awakening had this kind of weird. It was basically at the point where Awakening was the last chance for the franchise, effectively. This could have been the final Fire Emblem game. And of course, they were basically putting out all kinds of ideas. There was talk of, modern day, of having, having a more modern setting and shit like that. And I groan because I think about that and I'm like, then I remember Tokyo Mirage Sessions and it's like, ugh. But then again, I also don't count that as a Shin Megami Tensei game, I don't count it as Shin Megami Tensei, but I also don't count that as a Fire Emblem game. Far from it. Oh, that's just that. Okay, sorry. Hey, sorry, my phone went off and I was wondering what the heck it was. So Fire Emblem Awakening, right? Basically, they had all of these. They basically had this idea present, isn't in they had all these ideas that they were bouncing around, but what they wanted to do was they wanted to make this a culmination of the entire franchise. So effectively, all those wonky, weird ideas that they had tossed out the window because it was like, no, we want this to be the culmination of this game and of this series. Because if we're going to end the franchise, we're going to end the franchise on a high note. Only for that high note to effectively pull a Star Trek 2. I won't bore you with the details of that. Go seek the Lore Runner's amazing rumination on that. And I will not hear otherwise on that one, Lore. Don't even try that. Don't even try that. Not with your Wrath of Khan room, okay? Not with your Wrath of Khan room. Sorry. Jabs at the Lore Runner aside. Sorry. I said I was leaving that aside. The funny thing about this is, the funny thing in regards to the Wrath of Khan thing is, oftentimes it was when you put work, effort, and time into a project, that project tends to succeed, huh? Go figure. Go figure, right? Because if you're just churning out a project to churn out a project, well, you end up suffering from bullet point syndrome. So, in fact, my note. So speaking of the sales ills, my second note literally says that point blank. The quota was 250,000 sales. Now, again, that is specifically Japan, and right. They sold in Japan 242,600 in a week. Now, that may or may not sound impressive, but considering that this is for a franchise that effectively Nintendo was looking at and seeing as effectively a dead franchise, that's pretty damn impressive. The only reason it wouldn't be impressive is if you're Square Enix. Anyways, which is hilarious, which is actually kind of a hilarious parallel for me because this is the 13th Fire Emblem, mainline Fire Emblem. This is effectively Fire Emblem 13. Those who know Final Fantasy, in which what I actually think was what was the newest Final Fantasies at the time. Final Fantasies, I say Final Fantasies plural because I think 10-2 had come out by this point, but I could be wrong. But regardless, I am not a fan of 13.1, of FF13.1. Let's just say that as bluntly as I can. The only one of the 13s I enjoyed was 2, and even then, that two's ending can go to hell. But again, we're not here to talk about Final Fantasy. Now, I have a bunch of points that are effectively according to the wiki. Now, for info, I tend to look up two specific sources: Serenus Forest and the Fire Emblem wiki. Now, everybody keeps saying, you should look up info, you should look it up on Serenus Forest. So I was like, okay, I'll consult both because then I can get, the widest scope imaginable, and Serenus Forest is usually trusted for information. You want to know how much Serenus Forest had on Awakening's development? One link to an interview, which was actually an Iwata Says or something like that. It was some interview, some sit down with the developers of Awakening as they were asked questions about it. So an interview. That's why I call it that. So this is, and I couldn't substantiate the blurbs I read on the wiki. So, grain of salt. But according to the wiki, they always had an international release in mind when they were making Awakening. Again, like I said, I wish that mentality had been there for New Mystery of the Emblem, but let's not get into that. So, from what I could tell, again, these figures are coming from the wiki. Even the 242 600 242K 600 is from the wiki. So, grain of salt. But North American sales in April of 2013 for North America were apparently at 180K and later would hit over 240K, the 240K mark. So even if it was for worldwide release, we were good because we had hit over 500,000 copies worldwide by the time, when all was said and done. Now, again, another point that I couldn't corroborate was because Awakening just sold well. Both Fates and Echoes were greenlit. Now, everything that I can tell actually kind of makes my theory about Fates non-existent. Fates is just a. I'm sorry, or said if she ends up watching this. I'm sorry to Neko, but Jesus, Fates has a lot of issues, in my opinion. I don't want to shit on Fates because Fates is her favorite, but Neko is one of my stream viewers, and from my perspective, she recently discovered my Twitch channel and has been consistent as the person in my chat. We'll see if that changes after I finish Fire Emblem Three Houses, but because God knows that happened with both Knocked and Anaxi. Both of I have not seen those two in my chat since the Trails games. I guess they're just not interested in anything that I've streamed since. Which would make sense. The only things I've actually streamed since then have been Valkyria Chronicles and Fire Emblem. So, you know, we'll see. There's my note about yes, this saved the franchise, which is basically my big thesis statement. So, they basically wanted to make this a culmination of the series, and that meant throwing in some stuff that had actually been introduced in New Mystery of the Emblem, specifically the Avatar character and casual mode, which we'll get into in a little bit. We'll get into in a bit. I want to talk about the creation of Robin here. Not so much from like the character perspective, but that was their approach. Make the character a character as opposed to what it had been in Blazing Sword, and from what I can tell in New Mystery of the Emblem, which was just the player is effectively the avatar. Excuse me. So they came up with this idea. I don't know if this is a new mystery. I should have looked it up, but they basically had you select a best stat and a worst stat for Robin, and this is actually nice because this actually is the closest thing to an honest to God build you can have for Robin. Now, I wrote down all of the figures and what they increase if it's the best trade and what it decreases if it's the worst. Essentially, what this boils down to is specific things will be increased by a couple of points or decreased by one, and should you pick it, right? So the only one I did not write down in each category was, of course, health, which is modified +5, -3 for best and worst, respectively. Max health is always 80, so that the max health stat never changes. Luck is always a +4, -2, and all the others are basically a +2, -1 with the max stats. That's for the max stats specifically. Now, the starting stats, there's different, there's different ones. Like I said, health is the most balanced. You basically get a +2 to luck, defense, and res with a +1 to strength. Strength is, of course, the +4, -3. That's going to be true for every stat that you pick as the boon. That's a duh. which then grants skill, ill, and defense. Magic is speed and resistance. It affects speed and resistance. Skill affects skill and defense. Or strength, skill, and defense. Strength and defense. Excuse me. Skill increases strength and defense. Speed is skill and luck. Luck is strength and magic. Magic defense is luck and resistance, and resistance is, of course, magic and speed. Now, that's all according to the wiki, those specific ones. However, from what I can tell, this is the formula that is used by the JavaScript um, chart thing on Serenus Forest. So you can kind of plot that out with Serenus Forest. I do recommend that, by the way, if you're going to play this game, because that will help you determine how you want to go about it. While we're on the gameplay section, let's go ahead and talk about casual mode. Because there is a discourse between casual and classic. Now, in my blunt opinion, I do think casual mode should just be ejected from the franchise going forward. Now, call me a weirdo, but the reason I say that is there is no point to casual mode when you have a rewind feature. It's literally just a moot point. Now, I get that the idea is you can just blaze through as much as you want, but again, I feel like that should be. How do I put this? Maybe just have it be. Instead of that, maybe have a resurrection feature. Now, I know Warriors had this, and I didn't really even talk about that there, but again, why not just have the option to revive your party members, right? Like, just expend a tiny amount of resources and you can revive your party members. That makes the death moot. And then just turn that off for casual or classic mode, right? Because again, because then you're actually encouraging the use of the rewind feature even on casual, because then, maybe you don't want to spend those resources or whatnot, right? Just food for thought. Me personally, I can take it or leave it on casual. The inclusion of casual, while in my opinion serves no purpose, I'm not saying eject it. I'm not saying it should be ejected. I think I just said that it should be ejected. I'm saying that it should be ejected if they're not going to do anything with it. Is what I mean. But I'm not going to lose sleep if Fire Emblem 17. Yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep if Fire Emblem 17 has a casual mode. That would be fucking stupid. you know? Like, come on. Ugh. This is also the first time where we have a resource called Renown. Renown is the only thing that carries over from playthrough to playthrough. It is not really a new game plus. I did not give a plus, a new game plus for the renown system, because that's not how that works. That it's not really a new game. It's just you get bonuses on subsequent playthroughs because you've done so many battles up to that point across all of your playthroughs. That is a nice feature. I will admit that. You know, if New Game Plus can't be a thing, then might as well just not have it. For example, I can hear, I know some people have argued that, for example, Three Houses' New Game Plus isn't really a very good New Game Plus, because the actual New Game Plus features are, you have to spend a resource to really do them. And I do agree. there are certain things that I kind of wish carried over just like that. And that would be, I would want what I would carry over is I would carry over skills. I'd carry over skills, unlocked classes. This is um and and the professor rank in Three Houses. Now, if you've never played Three Houses, you're looking at those like, what the hell even are those? Those basically, because you can actually shift to any class you want, and classes unlock based upon progression. I would keep the ability to just change into those classes. You know, effectively make it a true new game. Yeah, true new game plus. If for no other, if for nothing else, with the skills, right? That's what I would carry over. Because again, then it's a true new game plus, because on new game plus you actually have more activity points that you can spend to do stuff, right? I don't want to get into Three Houses too much, but yeah, no. Here, though, it just grants you bonus items. That's it. That's why I say that you cannot consider this a new game plus, because it's not, like, at all, right? Then there was the 3DS's classic Street Pass and Spot Pass features. Now, the Spot Pass stuff I will talk about later. Spot Pass is basically connect to the internet and you gain some stuff. Street Pass is you could pass by a person on the street with your 3DS in your pocket, and you would, and if they had a 3DS with the same game, they would effectively, there would be certain features. Sometimes this was just a simple, bonus currency thing, which wasn't really necessary for the game, so you weren't really losing sleep. So you didn't really have to lose sleep over it. But in Awakening's case, it could be different teams. So you could generate a spot pass team, and that team would be then sent to other players that you pass by, and then they could either recruit your Robin, or battle your Robin and then recruit your Robin. And if you have any stuff in your inventory, you could then effectively be a merchant and actually sell things to other people. It's a nice idea. So this one has random battles, much like how Sacred Stones handle it. Sometimes monsters will appear on the world map and you can go fight them. Not mandatory. They aren't path blockers like they are in Sacred Stones. I'm gonna have to. I'm actually gonna have to consider uh, how I'm going to rate that. So yes, they have a map system, which was last seen in Sacred Stones. And only seen in 3 other Fire Emblems ever to this date. The traversing a map thing, that's only been seen in 3 games to date. Gaiden, Sacred Stones, and Echoes. Yeah, so I'll leave that up to you. I like the traversing the map thing because it gives it a nice sense of scope, and it's certainly better than the way a genealogy handled it. But let's not get into that. I don't want to bash genealogy too much. That's because I will actually be giving genealogy the benefit of the doubt on one thing because of a negative I gave this game. Anyways, then Anna kind of is celebrated as a merchant because Anna's sisters a bunch of different Annas can actually show up, and depending on their location, will determine what kind of items that they have for sale. And sometimes they'll sell, like stuff at lower prices. And this is also where you can get stat boost items. In fact, the Annas are usually your prime source for getting stat boost items. They're expensive as hell at 2,500 gold a piece, but to be honest with you, considering how low scale Fire Emblem's stat curve tends to be, that is actually worth it. I mean, most stats have a max of that is in the 40s, for God's sakes. you know? like like for example, I think I can't remember what stat it was, but one of my characters had a max stat of like 44, you know, in one of their stats, just to give you a bit of perspective. It's rare that they get up to past 50, for example, which is good because, well, skills would be even more broken in this game than they already are if you could get your luck, for example, well above 50. Because remember, certain skills have a formula that is literally, for example, percent chance to trigger equals the stat in question, and then sometimes it's the stat -2 or whatever. So then there's the support conversations. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Hey, this is the best support. This idea that they have now carried going forward is really damn good. See, the problem with support conversations in the GBA era specifically, because I don't remember how it works in Path of Radiance, and Radiant Dawn's support system is, depending on how you look at it, either non-existent or the worst in the entire fucking franchise. In this one, you actually can unlock conversations between characters, and there is a whole list. You're not locked into just conversing like with one or two people. You can actually converse. Excuse me. You can actually converse with the entire list up until a certain point. The only restriction is each character can only have one S support. Which makes sense because, polygamy should not be a thing, despite the joke of this being known as Waifu Simulator 2013. But I digress. This was also the first Fire Emblem to incorporate DLC into the mix, which was actually kind of nice. So, I'm going to continue with the gameplay section for a bit. I love how the tutorials are handled in this game. The way the tutorials are handled is it appears on the bottom, you get a bit of dialogue, and then the tutorial appears on the bottom screen to kind of go over what they were just talking about. You want to get those tutorials off your screen? One button press. That's it. Or one tap of your stylus. That's it. You're done. Gee, what a novel concept. I bitched in Warriors about how the tutorials were obnoxious. And yes, I could have turned that off, but I was getting so fucking frustrated because the default setting was, oh, hey, here, have warriors freaking interrupt you nonstop for like a billion times, and it's like, oh my god, why? Why would you do this? You know? But no, Awakening has the tutorials be fine. I don't remember how the tutorials are in Fates, admittedly, but, again, there's also different small little quality of life updates. And some good options. I do like the idea that you can actually just move your cursor across the map. You can move your cursor across a map, and then say your enemy is right here, and like, okay, let's say you're here and your enemy is here. You can actually just you select this unit, have them go move the cursor over to this unit, and just hit A, and the game will automatically understand. Okay, you want to go attack this character with the equipped weapon. Okay, got it. Let it go. That's a nice touch because the way it has always worked up to this point, based on, again, from memory, I could be wrong about this in the Tellius games. This could have been something introduced in the Tellius games for all I know. But the way it usually works is you have to move to beside the unit, then select your weapon, then attack. Just gonna go ahead and say it, too many clicks. Because that is effectively, if you don't count moving the cursor, that is minimum 3 clicks. Unit selection, action, uh, you know, confirming move location, selecting weapon, so 4, selecting weapon, attack, confirming attack. 4 clicks. Meanwhile, again, if you don't count moving the cursor, the way I described it, it was 2 clicks. Select, move the cursor over to the unit, select the unit, the enemy, the attack commences. Three Houses also adopts this too, and God, that sounds like such a minor thing, and yet, again, it helps substantially. Now, whether or not you think the menus are too clunky, that is up to you. But that is a nice touch on the combat field, at least. I love the fact that you can just tap on a thing and it'll give you a little blurb explaining it, and the icons are pretty simple to see and have. I thought about whether or not I should give a walkthrough itis negative, for example, knowing which skills are on which unit, but that really only that's only really a thing if you want to be basically crafting effectively game crippling crippling frickin' like if you want to cripple this game's difficulty into oblivion, basically, right? So no, I didn't end up getting a walkthrough itis negative. There's always been good terrain usage, in my opinion, because you stop on different terrain and it'll give you different boosts to defense and avoid in that, so that's cool. All right. This is the first time I've ever talked about the weapon triangle, so let's talk about the weapon triangle. I love the weapon triangle because I love the idea of it. Swords are bested by lances, lances are bested by axes, axes are bested by swords. And I gotta be honest with you, all of this makes perfect sense. A lance has more reach than a sword, and can be maneuvered, so that's cool. Axes just cut right through lances, so that's kind of cool. And then swords can kind of get into an axe and kind of chunk it away. I like the idea, in other words. I've always been a fan of this rock paper scissors type of idea of combat design. I like it in Pokemon, for example, right? Certain um types of attacks are super effective against types of Pokemon, that kind of thing. It's always been something that I've enjoyed, and it really does work here. What doesn't really work are the limited victory conditions, because every map in this game, and I do mean every map, has one of two objectives. Rout the enemy, which is defeat all enemies, and defeat the boss. That's it. Those are your two victory conditions. Now, admittedly, in the olden days, the victory conditions were almost all C's, but you still had survival missions on top of that. You still had some defeat the boss missions. You had later ones would have get a character to a destination. There are options, and Awakening kind of was just all of them are route or commander defense, which is actually a point against Fire Emblem Fate's Birthright, by the way, because with the exception of like one map, it suffers from the same problem. Specifically Birthright, by the way, because Conquest and Revelations have different objectives, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a while since I played Fates, admittedly, but that's because I don't really have any desire to go back. Also, I gave Donnie a gameplay plus because I like my trainee characters, and Donnie, oh my god, Donnie is your nuke option. It's nice to have a nuclear option that all you have to do is spend like an hour grinding him in, or have him present for a few maps. And once he gets out of villager class at level 10 with that second seal, which you should have by the time you get to that point. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about probably one of the most controversial things I could talk about. Pair up. Awakening's pair up has been described as broken. And it is. Because what it is two units can join together and become one, and different stats will be, depending on support level, will be granted the to the lead unit, depending on what stat is the support unit, right? Now, unless the support character's weapon is broken or they're a cleric, they will gain X because they will be constantly dual striking. And if you get two S tier, S supported characters paired up, they basically turn into insane death machines. The difficulty curve is decently well done in this game, but if you train up like one or two units, you will curb stomp this game. You can easily curb stomp this game, and pair up is basically the whole reason why, right? But yeah, no, and that's the other thing too. Which is funny because yeah, it actually means you can actually have a one character gain support points with up to 5 characters at once. They just have to basically all be around, and you basically have to uh, use a ranged attack on an enemy that's in excuse me, in a corner square. But you get my point. I've already talked about the saving Anna's. Pair up is great. I'm admittedly not a fan of the way Fates' pair up works, but if I ever review Fates, I will explain my problem with pair up. And I know I'm the only person on the entire fucking planet who hates Fates' pair up, but let's just say I prefer the adjutant system and move on. 3 houses specifically. So then you have the sparkle squares in the barracks, which can lead to either finding a random item, gaining experience, gaining weapon proficiency, or support conversation with your paired partner. So that's cool. And the barracks are basically the same thing, which is awesome. Still going through the gameplay. Oh god. Okay. I'm not gonna dwell on this too much, but I just got to my a strangled piece note, which got a story and a gameplay negative because I don't like the story of the paralogue A Strangled Piece. I also hate the gameplay. So most of a decent chunk of the map is forest, which limits your movement, and you basically are trying to save 3 villagers. These 3 idiots are unequipped. They can die in one turn, and they run right into danger. Oh, and to get the one reward that's worth a damn, because the other 2 rewards are literally joke weapons, ladle and log. You basically have to keep them all alive. Well, what is that? That third item, Blue Wolf. It's probably amazing. It's a seraph robe. permanent 5-point boost to your HP. That's it. It's not even a Nagas tier or even a Tiki's tier. I mean, Tiki's tier would probably be even more insulting to some people. But quite frankly, I'd rather take Tiki's tier because then I can just be like, just let me wipe your tears, Tiki, because I really do like you. Sorry. I know. Bad joke. Anyways, to be fair, she's like ridiculously older than me by a factor of like hundreds. So, shrug. She's like 30, 100. No, no, 100. 100, yeah, because 30 centuries. In fact, I can actually do that right now because, duh, computers have calculators. That is a factor of, yeah, exactly. It's a factor of 100. Anyways, give or take, but let's not argue semantics. So yeah, I really don't like that, and that is a problem with a lot of the paralogs. A lot of the negatives I gave certain paralogs is because of uh, units you're trying to allies you're trying to save, effectively being so goddamn easy to kill, where one mistake kills them. It doesn't game over the map, but it's still dumb. 3 maps come to mind, or 4 maps, excuse me, come to mind immediately, including one of the DLCs. But I digress. I hinted at this with Donnie, but this is also the game where reclassing became a thing. It is god tier broken in this one, admittedly. But again, that's because they wanted to make this as accessible as possible, so I'm with it. I'm with being able to have all the power. I like this idea because the reclassing just opens up a whole bunch of options, right? Obviously, I'm not going to go in depth on every one of my gameplay pluses because a lot of it was just I enjoyed this map. Moving on. I guess we should talk about the grind. So, Awakening does have a grind problem. And it really is only really a problem when you're going for 100% because the paralogs are, how do I say this as nicely as I can, completely unbalanced when it comes to difficulty. Most of the paralogs unlock after chapter 13. But the problem is at most you're going to be getting a few people that are just starting to get to be able to start promoting to the advanced classes, if at all. And while some of the maps are fine for that, others are just a nightmare to do. And it's really just irritating, and it's like, ugh. There's my note about the difficulty curve, which actually ties into this point. Because, yeah, difficulty curve and grind kind of go hand in hand. There's my note where it was starting to bug me that there is about the weapon durability. Now, I haven't really talked about weapon durability, but let me go ahead and say that Fire Emblem is like the one franchise where weapon durability doesn't bug me. Because 9 times out of 10, weapon durability, in my opinion, is always done incredibly fucking wrong. And the reason being is actually very, very simple. The game's not designed around it. the game is not designed around weapon durability in question. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild comes to mind. The way they did weapon durability in that game was trash, in my opinion. I know that's an unpopular opinion. Let me just adjust my webcam here. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but again, I hate having my weapons break in every like 2 seconds. And the fact that the Master Sword can become a weak ass butter knife, the Master Sword really pisses me off. And that's the same here. Why can we get multiple Ragnals that can break? Now, I'm not asking for like Erica's blade to be infinite use. I'm not asking for like Celica's gale to be infinite use or Micaiah's pyre or any of that stuff, right? I'm not even necessarily but like why is the Book of Naga limited use? By the way, if it's limited use in its game of origin, which I believe is Genealogy of the Holy War, that's a negative. Negative too, because God no. I have no tolerance for that shit. Because what makes a weapon legendary if it's just gonna fucking break? And because again, and you're like, oh, but that's that would make them unbalanced. There are ways to balance it without completely making them terrible. Which is funny because Fates actually goes to the opposite extreme. They completely remove weapon durability, but it's like, oh no, we need to find some way to balance it, and therefore they basically made it so that anything past steel weapons you're never going to use because the silver weapons drain your stats after use. What? What the fuck is the point then? You might as well just stick with the steel weapons. And that really limits your battle potential, by the way. Ugh. In my opinion, you know, weapons like Ragnell, Mystilion, um, that Myrmidon weapon, Amatsu, I want to say. What am I even doing? Moving. I can actually, if I'm going to list them, I might as well just pull out my 3DS here. Oh wow, I didn't even play out the final cutscene. Whoops. Oh well. You gotta give me a minute here because I didn't actually technically allow the final bit to be done up because of something we'll get to a little bit later. Okay. So okay. Let's see here. Soul Kadi, right? By the way, that also pissed me off in Sacred Stones. Sulcati was the first one I saw, so that's why this came to mind. Why is Ragnall limited use? Why is Sulcati limited use? Why is Bullmung, Mistletoe, Tyrfin, Mercurius, Amatsu, Natsu, uh, Soul? Yeah, maybe not. Soul is fine, whatever. Gaybolg, Gungnir, Gradivis, Luna, right? Why are these weapons limited use? Wolfberg, right? That's not really a legendary, but it is a freaking um unique. Hellswath, that's Armads, that's Needhog, Ufel, Parthia, Earthia, Valflame, Goatia. Yeah, the Book of Naga, like I said, Versetti, Molnir. Here, I could keep going, but you get my point, right? Like, why? Why is that a thing? I again, let me have these powerful weapons. Make them hard to find. Excuse me. Make them hard to find. Make it take forever and 9 million years to get them if they're going to be renown rewards, and then I'm happy, you know? Because then I have earned my right to destroy everything. So there's my note about noble lineage, which, is the whole villager problem I talked about. Twin wyverns, which is the exact same problem, just amplified. Rival bands. I guess I should explain why rival bands is a gameplay negative. That's Yarn's paralog for the record. So we're gonna ignore the story implications of Yarn with his own paralog for a minute, and just focus on the gameplay side of this. So, if you want the best reward, that means fighting, because it's two armies fighting, two rival armies fighting. To get the best, reward, which is just 10,000 gold, by the way, just keep that in mind. And as I read through my note here, it means you fight. Best reward means fight both armies. More pop up when you make this choice, by the way, jumping the total enemies from 22 to 46. Yeah. So, now, these consist of several advanced units consisting of generals, sages, paladins, bow knights, valkyries, and swordmasters. You see the problem? 46 enemies that are all these advanced classes. Generals, which have ridiculously high defense. Valkyries, which, use magic and are on horseback, making them really damn dangerous. Bow knights, same thing, just with bows instead of magic. Paladins, high speed in that. Sages, more powerful mages. It really is a miserable time if you're not prepared for it. And the last sentence of my note says it all. Basically, if you want to get all the rewards, you grind. Because if you're not up to snuff, you're going to be losing units left, right, and center. Now, if you're on casual, that's not so much of a big deal, but if you're on classic, oh god. Especially if you're like me and you don't like losing people. Then there's the Daughter to Dragons, which is Na's paralog, which, yes, I am going to explain because the reason is for the gimmick. See, the gimmick of Na's paralog is there's these walls. They'll magically crumble or repair themselves as the map goes on. I hate this gimmick. I really do. It does seem like it's very specific what walls will do what, but on a first time through, you're not going to know which walls are what, so you might end up doing what I ended up doing on my playthrough because I forgot. I forgot where the walls would go, is you'd go away from the wall that's about to crumble and open up the path. And then by the time you get back over there, that wall will repair itself and another wall will crumble. Yeah, I was not a fan of that gimmick, needless to say. Then there's recruiting Tiki, which we'll have to talk about as very specific plus I gave in a minute here. But Tiki's paralog, where you recruit her, is known as the Thread of Silence. Now, this is an interesting idea because it's another I should say useless, but like protect a helpless NPC. I like this idea because it is very much a, you're basically you basically you know what you're getting into right from the start. So that's actually not a bad, that's not a bad thing. The problem is that it's also a negative because the reinforcements are insane and constant. Not a fan of constant reinforcements. This is actually why, from my perspective, from where I am in my streams of Three Houses at the time of this recording, Yeah, I've already given one of the paralogs in three houses a negative for that very specific problem. A specific annoying class constantly being summoned as reinforcements. Ugh. Fuck, I hate that map. Ugh. Actually, I think another paralog got it for the same reason, but but the notebook I'm writing my three houses notes in is over there because I'm doing the whole I'm doing a whole rough notes final notes kind of thing because I want to organize my three houses notes so that way I'm not flipping through my notebook 40,000 times like I'm doing here. I can just organize it and then it's just a go through the list and then and there you go. Uh then of course there's the five gemstones, chapter 21. I'm not a fan of this map either because the idea here is you have to defeat the commander to escape. Again, limited problem. So then the idea is you start up here at the top of the map and you're slowly making your way down. You also have to make detours for chests if you want those. The problem is you're constantly being basically stalked by enemies that effectively you cannot attack unless you have the Mire Tome. Good luck having the frickin' Mire Tome, because by this point you can only get those through the Annas. Sorry, I had an alarm set to because I was going to take a little bit of a power nap, and then I decided to hit record instead. Not really important. Not really important. Important. I don't know why my phone does that though. Anyways, it doesn't do it very often, so it's not too big of a deal. But yeah. So, anyways, yeah, five gemstones. And so, anyways, outside of Mire tomes, there's these sorcerers that are constantly bombarding you with ironically with Mire tomes, in order to try and put the squeeze on you. It is a very boring map because it takes forever to traverse. That map usually takes me like 4 or 5 turns to get anywhere with it, and even if I'm just doing it like going for the commander and saying screw the chests, that's still at least 3 or 4 turns, which is just no. Ugh. Ugh. Oh yeah, I never explained the other thing too. Whoops. Back to Tiki for a second. Tiki, I gave a gameplay positive for external continuity. Now, the reason I did this, and nobody else is going to do this. Like, for example, if Lore ever reviews Fire Emblem Awakening, if he ever gets the chance, uh, he's he's probably not going to give Tiki a gameplay plus because he doesn't really give characters gameplay pluses. Not really, really. I do, but that's only usually if they, if they really earned it, or really offer something substantial or unique. Really, it's the unique factor that plays into this. Yes. So, for example, I did not give a gameplay plus in Cold Steel 1 and 2, for example, to Laura, because Laura was just a freaking powerhouse of a character. Now, granted, I know I just did that with Donnie, but Donnie is one of those characters where I like the idea. I like when games have a nuclear option. Laura is not really a nuclear option so much as she's just a powerful unit. Sense make? It's also why, for example, I didn't give Basilio or Flavia positives. Even if they had joined earlier, I would not have given those two gameplay positives. But no, but a character that shows great growth, that is effectively a gameplay story integration. Fight and grow stronger, Donnie. Okay, he fights, and he definitely grows stronger because he is, usually one of my frontline fighters against Grima. So, yeah, when you're the final boss, cool. But the reason why I like it is Tiki effectively shows that she has gained power because she has basically been upscaled to Awakening's level and is damn useful to boot as a result of that, and I love it. So, just wanted to comment on that. And then back forward on my notes. Okay, so I mentioned how I was gonna cut genealogy of the Holy War some slack here. The Dead Lords. Effectively, this is the Tiki plus, which it actually fits with me having to backtrack to Tiki. I gave Tiki an external continuity gameplay plus. I am giving the Dead Lords an external continuity gameplay negative because they literally just do it as a here are the Dead Lords from the Jug Gel games, and they do exactly two things with them: jack and shit. They're not even really intimidating bad guys. They're just cheap, and offer a couple of unique weapons if you can get them. It's not very cool. It's not very interesting. And honestly, I just do not like it. Uh, da, 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 da. Oh yeah, by the way, constant gameplay, constant like reinforcements, pretty much will earn a gameplay negative point blank. So let's talk about those spot pass maps because one of the things Awakening does. Give me a second here. Ugh, sorry. One of the things Awakening does is it gives you access to 6 unique characters if you are able to activate the spot pass feature. Well, I'll just go ahead and sum this up for you. I'm just going to go ahead and sum this up for you. The spot pass maps on their own wouldn't, if we were to just focus on the spot pass maps themselves, well, let me put it to you this way. 1, 2, 3 positives. For gameplay, it would be 1, 2, 3 positives, and 1, 4, 6. And 6 negatives. So that's a -3 to gameplay. Ironically enough, considering there is literally a 3 negative map, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then for the story, well, yeah. 1, 2, 3 story pluses, and let's see, 2, 3, 5, 6 negatives. So literally, it's a -3, -3. The spot pass chapters overall are a net negative, and I stand behind that completely because the spot pass chapters are garbage. They are literally legit garbage to me. I mean, okay, the Radiant Hero, which is the Priam recruiting chapter paralogue, that's okay. I like that one because it's a decent super optional boss. The problem is the spot pass characters, and if I ever do that ranking of all the characters in Awakening, I'll be mentioning this too when I talk about the spot pass characters. All of the spot pass characters come way too late, and most of them are just in. None of them have anything unique to them. only two of them have anything really truly unique about them. One of which is a one with a skill that allows them to use dark magic, even though they're not a dark mage or sorcerer, which are the only two classes that can use dark magic, which is dumb AF in my opinion. But let's not get into that. I don't really want to argue semantics about the classes. It's dumb. Moving on. If anything, it would be a part of an aggregate negative, which, funny enough, I've never actually given an aggregate negative. I usually just call a lot of that just washes, unless it really starts to bug me. And usually I will fold specific complaints I have into a single negative kind of thing. So, for example, the combination of boredom and idiocy with, say, 5 gemstones, I actually, yeah, ugh, I just kind of lumped them in. But yeah, no, I really did not like any of them. Dead King's Lament was just recruiting the spot pass character was dumb. I'm staying hushed on who they are, or on the off because we're not in the spoiler section yet, so that's why. Dead King's Lament was just irritating to recruit that guy. Um, Irreconcilable Paths was actually was the other one other than Radiant Hero that was actually interesting to me. Wellspring of Truth was just had all of the wrong implications story wise, as even though it was actually kind of a nice gimmick. Ghost of a Blade was just terrible because really it just cements the problem with Type 3 with the time travel, which we'll talk about when we actually start discussing the story. When we get into the spoiler section, we'll talk about time travel. We can't get away from talking about time travel in this game. It's Fire Emblem Awakening. Okay, we're not getting out of it. I mean, we could get away with not mentioning it in Three Houses because that's more time rewind, not time travel. But you get my point. Because you're not actually traveling through time, you're just rewinding time, which includes you, by the way. You're actually rewinding yourself in addition to everything else. So, but yeah, Wellspring of Truth was dumb. Um, I guess I did name drop Priam, didn't I? Well, Priam is the only non-spoilery one that I can drop because yeah. I'm okay with naming specific characters if they're not major spoilers, but yeah, once we start talking about the spot pass characters, you will understand, like, when we actually get into the spoilery sections and talk about, because they are major story characters. Yeah, you'll understand why most of these were story negatives, by the way, except for like one. Uh, Actually, no, two. Two characters were actually story positives because it actually made sense. But yeah, no. The other two were absolutely negatives. Speaking of negatives, let's go into the DLC, shall we? I didn't actually count, but let me actually take a look at this. Alright. I need to go check something. I will be right back. So, sorry for the jump cut. Sorry about that. uh, Issues. Anyways, uh, false alarm, so yeah. Anyways, where was I? Right. Gameplay DLC. So I'm going to go ahead and count my positives and negatives for the DLC here. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 positives for the DLC, gameplay positives for the DLC, and 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. 9. So that's a -4 on deals. The DLC is -4, net -4 to gameplay. Story, meanwhile, is nope, that doesn't count because that's just overall. I just wrote it in the dumbest place possible because I find this game humorous. I'll just go ahead and say that part. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. The DLC gave 11 story pluses. And 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it was a +7 to story. Funny how that works. I stand behind that, by the way. The storylines are actually kind of engaging with the DLC. The gameplay is not. The DLC really still has the grind problem, in my opinion. Especially exponential growth, which had a bunch of risen with freaking with counter, which just made that completely not fun to play. Then there's of course the Iron Jar saga, which is of course Champions of Yore, Champions of Yore, Lost Bloodlines, Smash Brethren, and Rogues and Redeemers. I hate all of these DLC from a gameplay perspective because of one very simple problem. You get superfluous dialogue interrupting the animations. Even if you turn the animations off, the dialogue still interrupts you, by the way, which is the problem. So, yeah, the dialogue is constantly interrupting you unless you skip it. You literally have to skip the entire turn, which is just, what? Why? Why would you want to do that? You would want to see the battle play out. Ugh. And it really, really just doesn't work, in my opinion. It really just is, it is a boring slog, plus Rogues and Redeemers has the grind problem even harder. So that's fun. Then you got the 5 and a firefight. Then you got Death's Embrace, which was actually a really cool gimmick of constantly having your health drained if you're on the spikes, which is kind of neat. Then there was the 5 and a firefight, which was just god awful. Here's a map where you can't use rescue tomes, and there's a whole bunch of flyers beelining for the Annas that you have to protect. Not even gonna get into that. Then there's Roster Rescue, which has the same stupid gimmick from frickin' from Daughter of Dragons, Higgins, which is made even worse by the fact that you have to hunt down 7 specific enemies that have the pass ability, which means they can go right through you, which means you can't block the exits. And in order to get the best rewards, you have to literally defeat them all. And the rewards are tepid. Ugh. Hate it. Ugh. Then there's the Future Past DLC. The scrambles were a wash on gameplay, by the way. Harvest, Summer, and Hot Spring Scramble. Yeah, those were all a wash gameplay wise. They were good story wise, but yeah, they were all a wash gameplay wise. Then there's Future Past. The no really this is Type 3 deal. Type 3 time travel. The no really this is Type 3 time travel DLC. I don't like this DLC. I really don't. I don't like the. I don't. Okay, no, I'm sorry. I like the Future Past DLC. I do, but I hate the concept of this being Type 3 time travel. I'm sorry. Ugh. I wish it was just somebody trying to mess with the timeline, and then or Crom like just giving the kids their future or something. You know. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't work. The way it's constructed, it doesn't work. I mean, granted, you could have just had this be a future thing where Lucina has to inherit the power because Crom's falchion was destroyed or something. I mean, I'd be okay with that idea. But no. Uh but yeah, no. I gave Future Past 1 a gameplay negative and Future Past 3 a gameplay positive because I enjoyed Future Past 3 from gameplay perspective. But yeah, the whole in one mistake, all you can't save all four of them, and you need all four of them for the best ending. Is in all three DLCs is just ugh, you know. And then there's of course the final battle against spoilers against Grima, but you all knew that it Grima has been endgame Grima is okay for what he is, for what it is, except for the fact that it's basically just go defeat the boss while you have a crap ton of enemies just dogpiling you. That gets old and boring fast. So, yeah. Okay. Now, I get to go all the way back to the beginning because now it's time for my spoiler section. So, on the off chance you haven't played Awakening, I do recommend this game. I mean, I mean, don't let don't let this plus 11 here fool you. Fool you. This is still a damn good game, if for no other reason than for the damn it, if for no other reason than for this. And for this. Which now we're going to go ahead and talk about. So, spoilers, 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 spoilers. Alright, so the game opens up with a premonition. Now, the premonition, in my opinion, has been done the best. The 3DS Fire Emblems are the only ones that really do premonitions or flash forwards. I talked about this in Cold Steel 1. You can do a flash forward, but you have to be very careful with how you do a flash forward. This is an example of how to do a flash forward because this is simultaneously a flash forward and a flash back, which is kind of interesting. Interesting, but, time travel, complicated. I hate temporal mechanics. Yeah. Fates did it okay because it basically hinted at the chapter 6. And Echoes can go to hell with it because it literally spoils a plot point and curb stomps any potential tension that the the prologue could have possibly had. I mean, granted, the pre-title opening kind of destroys all that tension anyway, but again, you can skip that pre-title sequence. Anyways. So, Robin has this premonition of killing Crom. Then he's woken up by Crom. And then they are woken up by Crom. Sorry, my Robin was a guy, so so if I call Robin he, that's why. So Crom wakes them up. Frederick is immediately suspicious. Like I said in the rating, I thought I was gonna hate Frederick, and it was for that very reason. I don't trust you, and therefore I'm going to be an asshole about it for the entire game. No, Frederick is actually awesome. So, There it is. So then we learn about Plagueia, and then this is when the Risen start pouring forth, and Lucina's apparently successfully travels through time. I like the idea that the main reason why the Risen are actually a full thing in the present time is because of Lucina's time travel. There's just something about that actually kind of intrigues me. Excuse me, because it is effectively means that Lucina's actions effectively caused, the preview to happen, which is actually kind of interesting. So we learned about Elise and Plagia and how both have been basically at each other's throats for a while. We find out in chapter 6 that Crum's dad was an asshole and basically warred with Plagia at the expense of his own countrymen. Which, by the way, if anybody who knows anything about war, anyone who knows anything about war will tell you, yeah, like what the actual hell, you know? Excuse me. So the calamity starts up. Sully and Varian show up. They're awesome. I'm not going to really be speaking too much about individual characters in this. I've basically said my piece in the rating video, so I'll link that below so you can go check that out. Because again, I have to justify every plus and minus I give. So when I say that I gave, so when you see, a story score of plus 49, I have to justify every one of those points, both for and against. Which is funny because I had to justify like 70 pluses. I'm not even joking. I had to justify over 70 pluses. And it shrunk down to this. Think about that for a second. Anyways. Anyways. So then Robin goes to meet Emerin. Now, Emerin is the spot pass character that I gave 3 gameplay negatives to, and 2 story negatives to, because Emerin is very interesting as a character. I said this in the rating too, but it does bear repeating here, because this actually makes more sense. Emerin is the kind of character that she's a pacifist, but she's not a pussy. I admit my 90s slang probably will not gel well, so allow me to explain my 90s slang. A pussy is a coward. Somebody who allows cowardice to effectively consume them. Now, for example, Maritza over in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the episode Duet. He's not a pussy. He's not. He claims that he's a coward. He claims, he claimed, I guess, spoiler alert, he claims, there's a claim that he was a coward, but I don't buy it. I don't. Because what he did was incredibly brave, but, I don't want to get too much into that. Again, another rumination for me to link. I'll link both of those ruminations that I've mentioned in this video below, so if you want to go check out lower stuff of both Rathacon and the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Duet. By the way, his videos also assume, much like mine, that you've viewed the work already. So yeah. Now, Emerin, of course, is very kind, very compassionate, and basically is trusting of Robin and trusts Crum's judgment. So that's cool. Frederick, of course, has to be the Sedith equivalent, but then again, in both cases, both Sedith and Frederick become really good allies. So there you go. Excuse me. So then we're introduced to the other shepherds. We're introduced to Simea and her two left feet. Uh, so then we get to Donnie, as you know, because you get access to the after chapter 3, you get access to the paralogue. By the way, I do like Simea swooping in and saving Crom. That was a nice touch, and I also like that Regna Ferox. I like that combat effectively is their way of diplomacy. It's like negotiating with the Klingon Empire, right? You don't send a weak-willed, sniveling frickin' diplomat to go to co-negotiate with the Klingons. You either send and Jean-Luc Picard, who has proven he is a strong captain, or you send the Cisco, first name don't fuck with. And yes, I stole that joke from Us with Debris, but I mean, if it fits, it fits. You know? I mean, even the prophets call him the Cisco, for God's sakes. The only reason they don't say first name don't fuck with is, well, it's Star Trek, and there's and until Alex Kurtzman gets his hands on the franchise, there is no cussing. Except for damn and what the devil and shit like that. Damn is about as far as it goes. Usually. And hell, but, you get my point. So yeah, I love Donnie being a simple farmer. We'll talk about my headcanon with Donnie's family a bit later, because when it comes up with Foreseer with Chapter 6, when we start talking about Crom's dad, because there's a headcanon I have actually, about where Donnie's potential comes from. And again, like I said, headcanon, so it doesn't count, but it is still kind of a nice little headcanon touch. This is also where we start running in. Then there's Falchion versus Falchion, or the Chapter 2 Falchions. I love the cutscene where Crom faces off against Marth. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Lucina. I'm just going to call her Lucina from this point forward. Is that okay? Is that okay if I just drop that spoilery bombshell on you right now? Because I don't feel like keeping on calling her Marth the entire goddamn time. Anyways, so I love the idea that Lucina has to put on this brave front. Forgive me for going into headcanon territory, but I like to think that Lucina was basically barely holding it together. Like, she was putting up the mask. Not only literally with the actual physical mask, but an actual, really psychological mask. Like, ka-chung, right? I must be the stoic warrior, because I can't let people know that it's like, that's my dad over there, and I just want to hug him and cry in his arms, and but no, everybody's gonna think I'm his secret lover or something, and this isn't smutty fanfic, so let's not go there. It's just a little headcanon that I like because so then. And so then we go to meet Gangrel after Lucina flees, because the Risen and Plagueia are now barking at their doors. They kind of need an alliance, so they go to Regna Ferox to ask for one. And then, of course, we have to kick Basilio's champion's ass, which ends up being Lucina. Which is funny, because Basilio himself says that he can't figure out how the hell Marth beat him. The idea being that Lonku has this aversion to women. Now, he's not a misogynist, okay? There is a difference. It's more like he's actually allergic to women. Not in the, ugh, get away from me, woman, women belong in the kitchen. It's nothing like that, right? He understands that women can be powerful warriors. I mean, for God's sakes, Flavia. No, the better way to put it is the way Basilio says it: women put Lonku on edge. So the idea being, and I forget if this is canon. I heard this somewhere, so grain of salt. But I do like this idea, so it's good enough to be at least a head canon. Lonku basically figured out Lucina was a woman, and that's how Lucina got the upper hand. Like Lucina basically somehow let slip that she was a woman, and that momentarily distracted Lonku enough that Lucina could take the upper, could deal, could best him. I like that idea because that makes a lot of sense to me. Because again, future knowledge, time travel, right? So then Gangrel basically claims that Maribel invaded his territory, and we're also introduced to Aversa. I don't like Aversa, needless to say. I really don't. She her presence in the story is tepid at best, and she pulls stupid constantly. I should destroy them. No, we have them outnumbered. We're good. What? you know? But no, Gangrel basically wants the Fire Emblem because of the war that Crom Emmeryn and Lissa's dad started, right? He wants the Fire Emblem because, we actually learn if we support with him in the spot pass, because yes, Gangrel is the dead king in the in dead from Dead King's Lament. We find out that he basically wanted the Fire Emblem so he could deal with Grima. You didn't think that through, did you, Gangrel? I know you're supposed to be a mad king, but you really didn't think that through, did you? Too sore at Crom's dad to really give a fuck. Heck, I imagine? Yeah. Still, it's a good chapter. Then Gangrel tries to take the Fire Emblem by force. And then Crom basically defends his sister. And Gangrel takes that as a declaration of war. Because let's face it, Gangrel is a warmonger. This is also why I hate the hate the idea of him as a spot pass character. Even though I like the idea that he is basically a broken man at that, I don't like the idea of trying to paint Gangrel's actions as somehow even remotely noble. I'm sorry, you don't try to murder somebody and then call it fucking noble. Unless you're bawling your eyes out while you're doing it. Gangrel laughed his ass off while he did it. Fuck him. Anyways, I do like 2 points, by the way. The idea that nobody claims that Crom started a war, and the fact that Emmeryn understands that. Emmeryn says that Gangrel is to blame, not Crom. Even though Crom's like, I'm sorry, sis, I acted rashly and now we got war on our hands. And Emmeryn is just like, yeah, no, you didn't start the war, he did. So then in that night as they prepare to march back to Ragnar Ferox for more soldiers, they talk about out how Crom's dad was a warmonger himself. That basically the war with Plagueia only ended with his death 15 years prior. Now, I have no idea how old Crom is supposed to be, but that's an interesting point to me because Crom, for all intents and purposes, acknowledges that Gangrel has a point. He never denies that Gangrel has a point. He just thinks Gangrel is a warmongering psychopath. And he's right. Right. But, he won't deny that Gangrel has a point. Okay, I don't know where that info is coming, but according to the wiki, Crom is approximately 19 in the pre-time skip. Yep. There's a 2-year time skip, so he's basically 19 when he's saying, 15 years ago, oh, his death. So Crom would have been 4 years old when his dad died. There's an interesting that had to have been a traumatizing experience, I gotta admit. This leads to the Donnie's dad headcanon. Because yeah, he was an asshole, blah blah blah. You know, I would never wish Emmerin to order Gangrel's death, but maybe I should just do it for her, blah blah blah. Right? This leads to the Donnie's headcanon, because Donnie, if you train him up even a little bit, he will keep up and even surpass your other characters, right? He's probably going to be one of the ones that will get to level 80 the fastest, honestly, because of his growths, and he will just become a death machine if you grind him up even a little bit. So, here's the headcanon I've always had. Donnie's dad was somebody um under Crom's dad, right? And effectively was a super strong fighter, but never really agreed with the previous king's bullshit. It got to the point where he was seeing way too many people, too many of his fellow countrymen he's saying that once his death happened, it would actually be interesting if it was an inside job and it was Donnie's dad. Again, that's fanficky stuff, but again, this is all headcanon. But my headcanon is Donnie's dad was really powerful, and so powerful warriors being powerful warriors run in the family. And for all intents and purposes, he was after the war, he was like, I'm done. I'm frickin' done. I'm going to become a farmer. Screw this nonsense. Now, depending on how old Donnie is, which actually I should have looked that up too, because this headcanon might not actually line up if Donnie's age is meh, and is way too young. But it, but at the same time, but the idea here is Donnie's dad was okay, they don't specify an age for Donnie. So regardless, considering how young Donnie seems to be, I think this still fits because he would effectively need to be less than 15 years old for this headcanon to work. And so effectively he settles down with a wife and on the farm, and he's like, I'm just going to go become a simple farmer. I'm just going to go live that life, and I'm going to stay away from this. Then when Emmerin becomes she goes to Donnie's dad and says, "You were one of the most powerful warriors in the kingdom. Will you consider coming back under the new regime?" And I like the idea that Donnie's dad would just be like, "Your Grace, with all due respect, your dad was a fucking asshole. Yes, I'm aware that my father was an asshole. I just want to live a simple life. I'm sorry. I will not return to service. I will not, I will not do this. I just want to be a farmer for the rest of my life. That's who I want to be. That's who I want, that's who I am. That's who I want to be. I don't want any of this." And I like the idea that Emmerin simply responded with, "I understand. We do need farmers to rebuild the land. We do need people to restore things back to prosperity. I will accept." And Donnie's dad was like, "Thank you, Your Grace." I like that idea because it just really really fits in my opinion, right? And then, a bandit gets lucky and chunk. That's admittedly the only part of this that doesn't actually line up, but it's just kind of an interesting little headcanon to think about. So then Lucina shows up and basically reveals that she's a time traveler and says, "I'm about to save your life from this assassin." And so she defeats one assassin, then a second assassin shows up and basically gets her mask sliced. And this is when Crom realizes that Marth's a woman. I love this line that she gives. "Wait, you're a woman?" And then Lucina replies, "And quite the actress too. Honestly, I'm surprised you didn't figure it out until just now." And my note literally says flexing there, Laura, as in Laura Bailey, right? The way she delivers that line is just perfect. Uh, so then we go and defend Emerin from assassins. Gaius, uh, Gaius, of course, is recruited. I talk about his recruitment in the rating Pane as well. Then Falchion gleams, which is just kind of, why does it gleam? I've never fully understood that. Like, that's supposed to be a connection point, but I don't know. Maybe it's to signify that she's at a critical juncture? I don't know. Something about it. It really doesn't make any sense, and they go nowhere with it. So, what the actual hell? I do like that they just flat out trust Lucina, even though they hid her gender. So that's cool. So then Emmerin tries to relocate to a different palace, and this is where the hierarch, this random priest dude, betrays them. "Oh no, the dude we met literally 2 seconds ago is actually a traitor. Who would have thunk it?" Ugh, screw that nonsense, honestly. Anyways, so then Emmerin returns to Elise to be captured. That's really the narrative reason. She's like, "Oh, I never should have left." I mean, 15 years of you being the exalt wasn't enough for them to trust you for a couple of weeks? If that's the case, then Elise is not proving itself to be a heirdom worth saving, my dear. I'm sorry. Ugh. Gives Crom the fire emblem. And then Crom is lost in thought, and Sumia's like, "Okay, I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna slap him." Slap! In case you missed that, yeah. This is why I like the humor in this game. See, Sumia basically was told by Captain Fila that, the captain of the Pegasus Knights, "Oh, a slap will wake somebody out of their doldrums, right?" She's doing it to just knock some sense into him, not to be malicious, right? This isn't a this isn't someone asserting their dominance. This is just, hey, wake up. The problem is as Lissa points out, when you slap someone, you do it open palmed. You just punched Crom in the face. and Crom's just all like, ah, that hurt. And then Flavia just comes in laughing like, what's wrong, Prince? Sometimes love hurts. You should be grateful you have freaking powerful women like that around. And not just dainty flowers. uh, then Then we find out that Yeastel has fallen, and that Emran is going to be put to death. Yay. Then I did the Strangled Piece, which is a story about hypocrites. That's why I got a story negative. So then we're introduced to the Grimleal, which, Monarchies, Dragonkin. Honestly, if I ever do a review on Echoes, that's where I really want to talk about Monarchies in the Fire Emblem franchise, because they are a prime example of why Monarchies use Dragonstones. In short, it is basically to keep them from going mad. So, that's a thing. So the Grimleal are introduced just so that way we can have the Grima plot points for later. Then we go to rescue Emmerin, and everything's going well until Aversa cheats and summons a bunch of Archer Risen. At least she admits it, because Gangrel's like, oh, Pegasus Knights! That Elysian tactician does not play fair! And then Aversa's just like, yes, well, and neither do I. I still don't like that, admittedly. I almost wish she had been the Valadar equivalent, right? Just make Aversa Robin's mother. That actually would have worked better than what they actually did. But whatever. And then we get Emmerin's sacrifice. There is very few times that fiction can make me feel. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about before this section here. Before I cut off this section here. Because, like, from your perspective, it's all going to be one big thing. But from my perspective, I'm going to have to actually string two separate recordings together. So, I'll probably do a, one stream later or whatever thing. But regardless, this is where Emmerin basically is like, okay, look. Blue Wolf's parents are really pissing him off, so... Anyways, sorry. Bad joke. So Emmerin basically is like, is trying to get Gangrel to see reason. He won't. He's a warmonger. We've been over this. And this is when Emmerin is like, okay, I need to actually take action. She's, but she does try one more time to do words. And I wrote the whole speech down. Of course I did. Forgive me. Plagians, I ask that you hear my words. War will win you nothing but sadness and pain, both inside your borders and out. Free yourselves from this hatred, from this cycle of pain and vengeance. Do what you must, as I will do. See now that one selfless act can change the world. Her words seem to fall on deaf ears, and this is when she fully is like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Fuck it. I have to do it. She literally questions it briefly. No reaction. Was I wrong then? So be it. And it's in that moment where it's fully cemented. Yeah, no. This is this is what I must do. And she kind of looks over at Crom rushing over, which you'd think would have arrows flying at Emerin, because wasn't that what Gangrel said? I don't know. Maybe the idea. The problem is those archers are still there after the CG scene. So what the hell? Anyways, because again, it was if he even twitched, the arrows were supposed to be let fly. Alright. I guess the Risen only take orders from Aversa, and Aversa didn't tell them to do that? I don't know. I mean, it would make sense. But, meh. Anyways, no reaction. Was I wrong then? So be it. Crom, this is some torture I'm passing you. Determined look, walks to the edge, falls. Falls, and that music kicks in. Oof. Crom, Lissa, and all my people know that I loved you. Very few deaths in fiction will hit me. That is one of them. That is one of them. God damn it. So then we get the renewal chapter, which I'll just go ahead and finish the Plagiar because I'm practically done. Then we get renewal, which is just great. It shows that it's not completely black and white, even with the Plagians, so that's nice. And then everybody's lamenting this, and then it's like, no, it's time to go kick. It's time to go kick Gangrel's ass. We have to go kick Gangrel's ass. We have to stop this. But first, we gotta go recruit Anna, because that's what I did. Because Anna's recruitment actually pops up before renewal. That's bad timing, in my opinion. I think it should have popped after renewal, not before, but shrug. So then, as we start the final battle against Gangrel, we start learning that the Plagian army is collapsing. The reason being is a lot of them, as we saw in Renewal, were hearing her words. And so the Plagians basically start deserting Gangrel en masse. They're like, no, she's right, fuck this. We're done. They threw down their weapons and they left. Because, well, simply put, because they don't want this anymore. They just don't want this anymore. So only the ones that are either loyal to Gangrel or are loyal to a paycheck, one of the two, who stick around. We kick Gangrel's ass. And then Crom basically proposes, if he has not actually achieved enough support with anyone, then he effectively is like, there's a little bit of a scene. I've seen all of them, and they're all gold. Although Olivia's is literally just her support chain, which is hilarious to me, but shrug. Olivia is one of the weirdest ones to do, but it's an option. You have to keep you basically have to keep Crom away from every other woman ever to make sure she's the one that does it, and then you have to basically have Crom attack a lot of enemies to gain support points with Olivia in order to make that work, but it is what it is. Whew. And that ends the Plagia arc. So From your perspective, I'll see in a second. From my perspective, it's going to be like a few hours later. How many hours later? I don't know. That's all actually going to depend on something else. So, see you in the second half of this, guys. I you. It's so slightly future Alex. Take it away. Yeah. Thanks. Alex from 3 days ago. From my perspective, I didn't intend for that. I just got tired and then work, and you know how it is. So I was at the end of the Plagueia arc. So let's get started. And move on as I shift to the proper page of my notes because, new day. Yes, here we are. Now, as I was mentioning with the Olivia things, I should also note that support points, the characters basically have like a starting support ratio. So, and once you get it past a certain threshold, then you go ahead and you can unlock the support conversations. Olivia is not the worst option, in my opinion. She is, unfortunately. You know what? Actually, no. No, I'm gonna walk that back. Maribel is the second worst option, in my opinion. I know that's gonna heckle some people, but because of her character, but let's just face facts. Maribel, as far as I know, in fact, I have my phone right here, so I can just look this up. From what I remember, does not have the reclassing options to make grinding her worth a damn, right? Because each character has has classes that they can second seal into, right? Well, oh, never mind. I mean, okay, she can actually do that. I was gonna say she couldn't become a Pegasus Knight, but apparently she can, so never mind on that. That is ultimately the big detriment to that mentality, right? That ultimately kind of is what hinders that. Oh, jeez. And of course, because Crom's been in 5 billion things, means I'm gone too far. Okay, there we go. I'm just double checking Sully's for a second here. Oh yeah, Sully's been in Heroes too. So, okay. In terms of class, Sully is the second worst option. Is literally the second worst option, and Olivia would actually be the third worst because of stats. Although, if we want to go by stats, it literally is Olivia's second worst. Maribel is third worst, in my opinion, from my experience. Now, the reason I say that is that now you're probably thinking, wait, well then which one of his romantic partners is the worst option? None. Because there is potential for Crom to effectively lose all of his romantic pairings. Now, obviously, this has to be done under very, very specific circumstances. Namely, you have to be playing as male You have to be playing as male Robin. You have to, you have to be playing as male Robin. You have to get all of his romantic partners killed, which is, by the way, which is Sumia, Sully, Sumia, Sully, Maribel, and Olivia. You have to get all of them killed, and then make it to the end of Mad King Gangrel, the chapter Mad King Gangrel. So who does he marry? Like, how does Lucina become? How does the timeline not get fucked? And who's Lucina's mother? A random village maiden. I'm not even joking about that. A random village maiden is Lucina's mother. Now, the problem, there's basically some conditions here, but at the same time, it is still really, really stupid. It is really stupid to go that route because, again, it, if you want to crap Lucina, you go that route, or if you're just trying to do for like a challenge run or whatever. The problem is doing that. I never like doing that because I have made powerful Lucinas, and I have also accepted not so powerful Lucina for this review run. I am not decreasing that even fucking further. Thank you very much. So let's talk about the time skip now. Now, there have been plenty of times where time skips have been very, very useful and uh, have actually helped the plot more than hindered. One Piece comes to mind immediately. The time skip really did. They really actually took advantage of the fact that, the Straw Hats had been apart for 2 years. I think they did a great job with this one here in Awakening because, 2 years is making them ready for another war. I mean, and even acknowledging that they're not exactly ready for another war, that's understandable. That actually makes a degree of sense. Then there's time skips that just don't make any sense. The two that come to mind immediately, which is funny because it's an anime and a Fire Emblem example, the two that come to mind immediately, for me anyway, are Fairy Tail, and I know I'm going to get so much hate for this, but Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, from your perspective, with any luck, my VODs for Three Houses will have started to go live already. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. I'll just use Fairy Tales as an example because it's very similar problem with okay, it's actually the inverse problem, to be more accurate, with with um Three Houses as time skip. See, Three Houses. The problem with Three Houses as time skip, as it is that it feels like nothing's changed. Now granted, there is actual changes, but the status quo is basically kind of maintained, and it just feels like, why did you have a time skip at all? Now, granted, I also have my issues with what causes the time skip and the fact and why it's literally Byleth basically going to sleep basically getting knocked out at the end of a cutscene, and then in the very next cutscene we find out, oh hey, it's been 5 fucking years. The problem, and that is a problem. Now, what helps to kind of mitigate that somewhat is actually the CGI reunion cutscenes, which unfortunately Crimson Flower didn't have, and I think that's to its detriment. Because the Silver Snow one is frankly freaking terrible in my opinion, but let's not get into that. But what sells that is, especially in Verdant Wind and Azure Moon, the cutscenes that play with that. And Awakening does that more so through its narrative. The reason Fairy Tales one was the other one that I brought up as a time skip that doesn't work is Okay, 7 years have passed. Why did Acnologia and Zeref not just fucking win? Now I know I'm if I'm not mistaken, Zeref, if I remember correctly, Zeref's plans and ideals were different. Although, if I'm remembering Acnologia's mentality was fuck everything. I'm gonna burn it all to the ground. Makes no sense. I mean, they do try to do some stuff to make it feel like 7 years, but it just feels like there was no reason for a 7 year time skip. Just make it two and you're good. Two seems to be the standard length for a time skip in a Japanese story. You skip ahead 2 years, you can change things, you can change things up. You can still change things up while still kind of making it so the status quo can more easily shift back in you know Three Houses, for example, I feel like, especially considering most of the time it's like 7 or 8 goddamn chapters, which I believe is 13, 15, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 6 chapters, which is 6 months. 5 or 6 months. And that is and that's the end of the war, because Byleth suddenly showed up. 5 years worth of war done and over with in 5 months. And no, I don't count Azure Moon and Verdant Wind as being any better, because 8 months. I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me of that. That those 3 months make all the difference. Okay? 3 months may 3 months. I mean, no, I'm sorry, Lore, but 3 months is only a super long time to idiots. Now, don't mistake me. I'm not saying that a lot can't happen in 3 months. The problem is that some people will treat a month later as Doctor Who syndrome. In other words, writers not having any sense of scale of time. Now, I understand that a lot can happen in a month. But there are times where multiple months will go by and fuck all happens. I lived through 2020. Honey, this is not something that's fucking new. And that was a period of 10, of like an entire year where nothing fucking happened. I mean, humanity basically stalled for a goddamn year. Anyways. Anyways. But yeah, no, in my opinion, Awakening definitely has a good time skip. Because again, a time skip that goes too long can be a bit of a detriment. Unless you make whatever you fill the void with makes sense. I am currently writing. Forgive my self indulgence for a minute. I'm sorry. In future, I'll go up and put up a timestamp if you want to skip on screen. In fact, I will actually make shoot with 2 halves of this. Okay. In editing, I will make a note. I will make a note to go ahead and, because I have to watch it while I edit, right? So I'm making a mental note. Future Alex, put up a timestamp when I'm finally done yapping about this shit. In my future work, I currently am trying to write a self-insert fanfiction. It is basically just a for fun thing. I'm not expecting people to like it. I'm not expecting it to be some grand epic, but it is just something I'm doing for fun on the side. I'm not very far into it, admittedly, and it may or may not go through an entire overhaul, depending on whether or not the plans that I'm about to talk about are going to be considered by the main creator of the universe that I'm writing for, because yes, it's a shared universe with my best friend. And that is, it's basically a self-insert fan fiction where I go through and then so a whole bunch of stuff happens over the course of like, hang on, I will pull up the spreadsheet and I will tell you. Because, yes, this is how serious I am about crafting this. I have a frickin' spreadsheet. So let's see. Don't really got that part planned out, but it is effectively set between basically the time frame, because I even have a timeline for this, is actually a span of about 5 to 6 years. And in those 5 to 6 years, basically 280 episodes worth of content is done. So I'll go ahead and close that now. Now, that may sound like a lot, but you also keep in mind that each season is about 40 episodes, right? So that is like 7 seasons worth of a thing, taking place over the span of about 6 years. 6 or 7 years. The timeline can be finagled. It really doesn't have to rigidly form into those 6 years, especially if I decide to basically get rid of all of the issues that are plaguing that may or may not be plaguing it, which is funny because doing that overhaul is actually going to mean fuck tons more work for me than anything. But it will also free up a lot of stuff, and it's also worthy of note. Actually, it's more like 320, but but that is still worthy of note. Now, why do I bring up the 6 years? Well, okay, that's the course of nonstop stuff happening with gaps in between of like months and weeks and yada yada yada, right? Because again, you also have to understand the mentality of there's a certain point where you need a break, like you need some kind of mini time skip to kind of ease people in, because otherwise, well, for most people it's just Modern Warfare 3 at that point. Non-stop up. So yeah, no, I'm giving my characters a frickin' couple of weeks in between crap to catch their breath. There's a reason why I tried it. With like 2 exceptions. In fact, sorry. So the glare is gonna go back. Sorry, I can actually look at that. Let's see, what do we got here? With the exception of yeah. It basically comes to a head with one storyline that would I write it like it's a TV show, so right. I'm if I'm do the overhaul, I'm gonna actually put it as like actual like short story form, or so. But anyways, the idea being is that August to September, so a couple of months, because that is an entire span of time where that entire thing takes place. And then the next story arc after that takes place over the course of the next 3 months. So 2 major storylines that cover 2 seasons taking place over the span of 5 months. Sure, that sounds like a lot, but again, and that is the mentality that has to be presented. That's the kind of thing you plan out, right? again, that is part of the reason, but that also, that's why I do those time skips. Now, to bring up the manager point, those are all just minor time skips. A couple of months, you know, at most a few months, whatever, right? At the end of all of that 6 to 7 year string of events, my intent is to have a 20 year, a 2 decade time skip. Now, if that sounds ludicrous to you, I don't blame you, because it is a ludicrous amount of time, which is funny because you basically double that, and you have effectively the time skip that they did with Batman Beyond. You know, the opening scene of Batman Beyond takes place, what what is it, like, uh takes place, like, something stupid, like, 10 to 20 years after the end of, like, Justice League Unlimited, and then Bruce is like, never again. Lights go off over in the Batcave, and then another, like, 20 years pass. So yeah, basically the idea is between the end of the Justice League series and the beginning of Batman Beyond is like a 40-year time skip. That is insane. Now, that's the DCAU, so they knew what they were doing. But the reason why I would do my time skip, and the reason it would be 20 years, well, I know some people don't like this kind of plot line, and, judge that as to whether or not you would ever want to read my stuff. The children of my self inserted character would effectively be, the stars of that next era. That's why I would need a 20-year time skip, because they would need time to be conceived, and to actually grow up to the point where it would be, believable that they could end wars. I know it's strange credulity to say teenagers could end wars, but Fire Emblem's been doing that since literally the beginning, so shrug is all I gotta say to that. Although I guess Marth may have been in his 20s when he did that. And although medieval society, so. Hmm. Anyways, I've rambled way too long about this. It just kind of struck. I just kind of wanted to talk about the nature of time skips, and it got me thinking about my own works. So then Cher shows up with Virion, and Virion is like, "Ha, hello, the great unmasking," and Cher's is like, "Yeah, no, he's Duke Virion of Roseanne, and yeah, I better speak for him because that's gonna speed things up considerably." I like Shersh, by the way. Shersh is amazing. She's a Wyvern rider, and we have not actually had one up to this point, which is an interesting contrast. Wyvern riders, it's interesting that Wyvern riders are as rare in most Fire Emblems as they are. You ever notice that? Like, how many times, and how many Fire Emblem games is getting a Wyvern rider, like, usually the point where you've gotten to a big point in the story, right? And I want to adjust my webcam here. Because I'm too off-centered, but I mean, I'm slouching and that's putting me centered, which is ironic, but I still haven't fixed that light issue. But uh, my point in bringing this up is I like Chersh, and it's funny because I also like Minerva. Now I'm pausing to see to kind of gauge, or I almost kind of wish I'd had enough of an audience to kind of just say that out loud, and then have my chat just be like, to ask my chat of the idea. Real talk. Uh, how many of you believed I was talking about Church's Wyvern, and how many of you figured I was talking about, thought I may have been talking about the character that Church's Wyvern is named after? Not in lore, of course, but out of out of character. For the record, I like both Minervas. I even like the alternate version of Wyvern Minerva, so there's that. So then we learn about the Valmy's mentality. You will fall in line or you will die. Keep that in the back of your mind for when we talk about Walhart, by the way. So then they're like, "Phew, so Vom is going to be a lot harder to deal with than we figured. So yeah, we're in serious trouble. We need somebody with like ships and lots of gold to offer us. And oh yeah, Plagia." And Crom is just immediately like, "Oh fuck that, shit. No, 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 no." And the thing is Basilio's got the right of it, because Basilio literally point blank says, they have gold and countless ships, boy. And more importantly, we've got a fart's chance in the wind without them. Which is also something Flavia agrees with too. She point blank literally says, the oaf is right. Crude, but right. You know? Because it is very true. They got wrecked. I mean, yeah, I wrecked the map, but at what cost? The town is in shambles, and Basilio's army has suffered a blow. And, if the dialogue is to be believed, and this is intelligent systems, so I am at least somewhat inclined to credit the writing on this one. Yeah, no. you know. So, then they go to Plagia that is being run by Valadar. Because Grima revived him earlier, I don't remember, because again, it's been a few days. Is that, Valadar basically got revived by Grima, is now the king of Plagia. Yay. He can offer no soldiers, and I wrote this down. He can offer no soldiers, but he can offer 1,000 ships, 800, and with 800 of those being warships, and 200 of those being transports. And you can go ahead and take all of those. Go ahead. And we're happy to help. Yeah. And if you're paying attention, especially if you pay attention during the subsequent scenes of this chapter, yeah, you know exactly where that's going. Ugh. Oh, and also full funding. Yeah, they basically use their treasury to stock their troops, and then also offer full funding. Yay! Our funds don't increase, because why would they? But whatever. So then you get the Hierophant that shows up and looks exactly like Robin. Given that Grima spoke with your chosen Robin voice earlier, yeah. So then Valadar tries to take control of Robin. I basically gave two story negatives for this plot point. Well, for this plot point and the point, it's the point of it. Because this is where Valadar reveals, I am your father. There's no weight behind that. Because it's a shock. It's like, whoa, wait, you're Robin's dad? What? Now, but they brush it off almost as quickly. And again, boils down to, I need to find a way to keep my father from controlling me. And and again, it's like, no. There's a reason why in my playthrough, who Valadar ain't fucking Robin's dad by the end of the game. Crom is. Needless to say. Because, yes, I absolutely have Robin marry Lucina. What? Type 3 time travel, remember? Now, granted, I also explained this away in my setting with temporal duplicates, but let's not get into that. So then the Risen attack us, and this is where we're introduced to Henry. This is where every Fire Emblem fan wants me to hang me hang me by my balls. I don't like Henry. In terms of rating, I called him a wash. In other words, no positives, no negatives. The reason I did that was just because I don't find Henry particularly funny. And yeah, to me, he's just a headache because he's another one of those, like, everybody freaking loves him, and I can't understand why. I don't know what it is about his humor, because I'm usually okay with dark humor, but there's just something about it. I don't know. Maybe Steve's dislike for Bryce Poppenbrook has rubbed off on me, because it sure as hell is not my dislike for Bryce Poppenbrook. Oh, sure, he played Kirito. Yeah, okay, that's nice, but I'll be over here enjoying his performance as Meliodas. Otis in Seven Deadly Sins. Oh yeah, Attack on Titan is the other one that everybody brings up where he sucked, apparently. I have not watched Attack on Titan because I saw the premise and was tried to watch it and noped. Just noped right the hell out of Attack on Titan. Too gross for my taste. Sorry. You know? But I liked Bryce Poppenbrook as Meliodas. I even liked him as the Don, for God's sakes, in the Dissidia games. I do like the way he cockily says, "What, do I need a reason to help someone?" So then Lucina is revealed. Lucina reveals that she is Lucina, that she is Crom's daughter. And I love Crom's line. I wrote this down because this is just such a beautiful line. Because Crom looks into her eye and it's like, that's the brand of the Exalt. Lucina. Because he gets that look of realization, like, Lucina. And then he looks down at her falchion and is like, and literally says, and I quote, "You deserved better from me than one sword and a world of troubles. I'm sorry." End quote. And then, of course, she just starts bawling her eyes out because, oh my God, she can't take it anymore. She can't take it anymore. It's the whole thing that I talked about earlier with her, like, having to put up that that mental mask is to just hide the fact that she wants to just break down and cry, wants to go to her father and say, "I am your daughter," and then just start bawling in her eyes out in his arms. I mean, Robin even points this out. It's like, well, this is how ill rumors are spread. I mean, Marth's sitting here crying and you're alone with her. This is how ill rumors are born. And disgusting, smutty fanfics, but let's not get into that either. So then Lucina talks about history taking a dark turn, and I love that cutscene, by the way. Hey, it's another example of the mask going up, right? One of the probably one of the first times she's had to put up a front for her soldiers, right? You know, it's basically just not to tip or not to show her hand too early when she's in the past, but with when she's in the when she's in excuse me when she's in her timeline. That's for her soldiers. That's why she stabs that Risen and is like, I believe the woman you want is me. And then is immediately stoically like, we can't let these things win. Now grab a sword and fight. She has to be stern because they're under attack. They can't be picky about their methods. These things are frickin' walking corpses. Put them back in the ground. Be done with it. So then Crom's wife reacts to Lucina. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. All I'm going to say is there was a Let's Play I saw that I heavily disagree with. It basically suggested the idea that the English version of this game is terrible because they actually went ahead and my phone's dying. So hopefully that's enough battery. What little there I did for that. Sorry, give me a minute. I gotta put my phone on the charger. So, anyways, and basically they were saying that this game was badly localized um, because all of Crom's wives when Crom reveals, hey, this is our daughter from the future. Look, the proof's in her eye, the brand. The reaction is always to both sides of that. In the Japanese version is huh, like literally just huh. Translated, it is literally huh, HUH question mark. In my blunt opinion, the reactions in the English version are way more believable. Because in the English version, it depends on the character, right? Sully just believes that Crom is lying, which is completely Sully. Sumiya, I forget how Sumiya puts it, but Sumiya is basically in disbelief. Like, oh please, come on. And that can't possibly be true. You know, and Olivia, Maribel is just like, that makes no sense. And Olivia literally gets mad and says, do you think me an idiot? That line actually was like, was actually the big point of contention. Oh, this is terribly translated. Right. The most believable reaction is terrible translation, even though it does get across the point that they are confused / disbelieving that this is real. I swear, if Des Shinta reviews this game and frickin' says this is a bad translation thing, I am going to fucking spit. Like, I am literally going to fucking spit. Because, like, fuck off. Because even if you want to say that this is bad translation, this is good localization because it gets across the same fucking point. The wives are not are confused and are not believing it right away. That is the point. That is why the huh is there. Because they are saying that in confusion. They're not just taking Crom at his word immediately, which is the point. I'm sorry for going off on this, but it's something that is stuck in my craw for a while, and I've been just needing to get this off of my chest for God, God, like fuck. I want to say at least 7 or 8 years at this point. God, I'm sorry. I'm not looking that up either. I don't remember what YouTube channel it was, and I frankly don't care because fuck them. I will agree that Maribel's line about did somebody steal our baby and enlarge her is really stupid and hilarious. Ugh, sorry, sorry, sorry. I will admit that is a story positive I gave out of spite. I will fully acknowledge that. I stand behind it, but I will acknowledge that but I acknowledge that, yeah. Anyways. So then the paralogs to recruit the child units pop up. Basically the idea is you always go ahead and when you get certain characters to S supports, certain female characters S supports because Fates is the one that does it with the guys. Um, when you get most of the female characters up to S support, I believe the only exceptions are effectively the paralog characters. So Anna and Tiki are literally the only exceptions. Sayri is the only main story exception. Oh no, I'm wrong. Flavia is also the other exception there, right? And then and then it's all just paralogs, right? Then with two story exceptions and all of the paralog and the two paralog exceptions as well as the spot pass characters, yeah, right. Oof. Now it makes sense and it makes sense from a design perspective why the spot pass characters didn't have kids because they didn't give them any goddamn supports. Which is funny because technically speaking, Tiki, Sayri, and Anna, even though they can support with other characters, can only S support with Robin. Which means if you go female Robin, there is no S supporting for any of those three characters. Yeah. But of course, I needed pathways because I wanted to do them in order, so I went ahead and did chapter 14, Flames on the Blue. So they start talking about how, about being on the sea and everything, and Lucina starts talking about how she couldn't risk altering history any further than she had to, blah 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 blah, and she was worried that her efforts are for nothing. Yeah, that's only because a freaking evil douchebag followed you back. That's the only reason. Let's be clear about that. Anyways, and the note I wrote is destiny is never left to chance. Now that's a Kingdom Hearts quote, but it very much fits here. Because again, Grima's not leaving destiny to chance, and we sure as hell aren't either. Admittedly, the whole idea that like everything in the ball mark has gone exactly as they predicted is just as excuse me is gone exactly as they fucking as it did in the future is just stupid in my opinion, but whatever. So then we defeat the sea captain, and then Robin decides to turn half the fleet into flaming cannonballs. I like that idea because it's clever. Because their troops basically don't even fill like they make this comment that their entirety of their troops don't even fill half the ships. Don't fill the ship. You can't they don't even fill even half the ships. Stern to starboard. So okay, if we don't need so many goddamn ships, then why don't we just pile them all up into a select few and turn the rest into flaming cannonballs? That just makes sense, right? And I love that Flavia gives Robin the idea too. It's kind of funny. So then I started doing the paralogs, and I started in order, which meant Owain was first. So Owain Owain is, of course, goofy, and again, if his humor works for you, he's awesome, and if it doesn't work for you, I admit his humor doesn't work for me very much. I feel like his humor is. It's over the top to the point where it gets draining. And that's my problem with it. I wish I didn't have as much of a problem with it, but I did. So then we get to the shore, or smoldering resistance, and Crom basically expresses a dangerous mentality. Any enemy of theirs is a friend of ours. Admittedly, in this case, he was right, but that is a very dangerous mentality. And so then we save Sayri. Sayri's kind of cool. We go to Milla's tree because we need to communicate with Naga's voice. This is where we're introduced to General Cervantes. Is see how my mustache moves in the wind. Yeah, he is literally a throwaway villain. But at least he's not a fucking headache. But we'll get to that in a minute. So then Tiki shows up, giving us our connection to Shadow Dragon, which is awesome. So then we get so there's some external continuity. Tiki has definitely got her frickin' beauty sleep. Holy shit. She went from this daughteru of instant must protect to, whoa, you became a waifu. Holy shit. I mean, granted, it's been 3,000 years, so that makes sense. So then they talk about the gemstones. Argent, Sable, Gules, Azure, and Vert. Basically, they need them for the ceremony, and of course, with the Fire Emblem stolen in the future, that was harder to do. So then we go attack Fort Steiger and deal with Gerald. Excuse me. General Valkyrie bitch, aka General Pharos. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call her a bitch. She is a Valkyrie class, hence the joke. But she's not a bitch. Not really. Oh yeah, she's like, oh, I will, I abandon my faith, and I serve a better voice now, and blah 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 blah, right? But she still looks at the next character and is just completely fucking disgusted by him. Excellus, voiced by Spike Spencer. I made the joke during the rating video, and I'm gonna make it here. Here, get into the hell pit. Go to hell, Shinji. That is a voice actor joke, in case you're not getting it. Spike Spencer voices Shinji Ikari. Yes, that Shinji Ikari. Poor bastard has let himself go, and he's definitely gone in cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Then Excellus turns the resistance against us. I hate this plot point, by the way. The reason I hate this plot point is they don't do anything with it. At most, what they do is, as soon as Yin Fei is defeated, oh look, the resistance isn't going to turn on us anymore. It isn't really turned on us anymore, and that's like the end of it. Oh, it's so stupid. So then they come up with the decoy plan of going to distracting Walhart while we go deal with Yin Fei, and Basilio gets going. Lucina tries to warn him. No, you will die if you go. Don't. Don't. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going anyway. And then it comes. Then he fights him, and well, spoilers. He dies. And Lucina is, of course, distraught by that. But but I do like the scene where he fights Walhart. That's actually kind of nice. That scene is gripping, and even though what happens in chapter 23 is what happens in chapter 23, it's still a good. That was still a good moment. Both of them were good moments. So then we go to Demon's Ingel, which is a freaking volcano, and go deal with Yin Fei. By the way, I like the fact that both Seiri and Yin Fei have full boss dialogues. Thanks, by the way. Hey, it's actually very nice and very fitting. So this is where I was like, yeah, okay, I guess I better give that gameplay negative for grind. Then, this is also where I got the confession scene for Lucina. And I love the confession scenes. A lot of them are awesome. Some very few of them are not very good. But it's pretty cool. The power progression curve in the story mode is pretty good. The difficulty curve, though, is kind of weird because it's great for the main story, but terrible in the paralogs. So, there's that. So then I went to Men for Flowers to recruit Inigo. And yeah, I actually kind of like him. I like Inigo. Inigo is fun. Even in Fates, spoilers, when he becomes Laszlo. So then we go get Brady from his terrible paralogue. I really don't like Noble Lineage. It is another one of those Save the Villagers maps, and it is terrible in my opinion. I might have said that already. So then we go to Kel. Is it Kel or Kajel? I can never know. I'll just call her Kel for the sake of it. Kel is excuse me, is a tough, no nonsense type of young woman, and I'm all for that. Okay. Hopefully I can get through this in the next 40 minutes. But we'll see. So then we go deal with Wings of Justice and the awesomeness that is Cynthia, which is funny because there's two characters that are in Nintendo games literally called Cynthia. There was literally a meme where Fire Emblem Cynthia and Pokemon Cynthia met, and it was like, well, this is awkward. Tell me about it. Yeah. I love recruiting Cynthia if Crom's her dad, by the way. I will not let anyone disgrace the name of my beloved father. Oh, for the love of... How many more daughters are going to come back through time to meet me? Wait, what? How did you know I was traveling through... I already went through this with Lucina. Lucy's here? Yeah, she's right over there. Oh, shit, I've made a terrible mistake. I mean, okay, she just realizes that I didn't write down his name. Bandit Dude was actually lying, but how did you not figure that out from the lack of blue hair? anyways. Poor girl's dumb as a brick. Moving on. So then I went and got Severa. A lot of people seem to really hate on Severa, and I gotta admit, I'm not one of those people. I'm pretty sure I said this during the rating too, but Severa is much more than just a tsundere bitch. I feel like there is a character underneath. It's just she's a tsundere because she's lashing out. She hates this crap, and she's got no other recourse, right? That she's got no other recourse, right? That is better. There we go. One of these, I should put a sticker or something. Like I should put a bit of tape on the top of my monitor because that's where my webcam is when I'm doing these. But I digress. So then we go and recruit Jerome. I don't like Jerome, for the record. He is easily he is one of like three that I don't that I would be perfectly happy with never recruiting. Jerome, Yarn, and Noir. Now, Noir is more so because I don't like pairing Tharja with anybody because I don't think that makes any sense. But yeah, Jerome is just irritating. Fate is cruel, and I will, and I'm just gonna say that everything is fate because I'm a moron. I hate Jerome. He is literally the shining definition of a pessimistic dumbass. Anyways, I do like that he time traveled just to set Minerva free, though. His Minerva free. That's a nice touch. Not enough to redeem the character, but I'm actually gonna skip over that one, even though Morgan is next. I want to talk about Morgan a little bit in a little bit. So Yarn. Oh God. Okay. I don't know how in depth I went with this in the rating video, so please forgive me. But Yarn is one of my most hated characters. I know this is going to sound crazy to many, but he is my most hated Fire Emblem character ever. There are characters that I find to be more badly written. Edelgard in the narrative of Three Houses, for example, right? Because in the narrative of Three Houses, Edelgard is terrible, in my opinion. And there's others that you could probably name that are even worse. I wanted to say Miklon, but no. I don't mean Sylvain's brother. I don't mean him. The one who topped Blazing Knights hated characters. There's Mikkel or something. I don't remember. That asshole who who the writers fucked over Astrid to turn Astrid into effectively a yes man for him. The drunken gambling layabout. Right? The guy who literally is just like, I am super stupid and I refuse to ever change, right? I know some people might say, well, isn't that Balthus? Balthus at least has charm and charisma to him. Mikkel just has pink hair and stupidity. And bad writing because Radiant Dawn has many bad writings. But again, I've never reviewed Radiant Dawn, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Maybe one day I will get a Wii and then I will borrow both that and Path of Radiance from Steve. Eve. But no, the reason why Yarn is so much of an irritant for me is Yarn is legitimately one of my most hated characters because of his very mentality. He comes from a war-torn future. And then he accuses, and the first thing he does when he meets his parents after traveling through time is to accuse his father of adultery. I'm sorry, in what fucked up universe would Pane A not be able to figure that out in a heartbeat, and B would Pane let the fucker live if he pulled that? You know? I mean, unless there's some like mutual thing. And again, Yarn treats this as if the instant he sticks his dad sticks his dick in another woman, he's done. What? Again, it's type 3 time travel, for God's sakes. Oh god, I don't even know if I talked about that yet. Fuck. Okay, hang on. Gonna have to go ahead and do this. Okay, it's clear I haven't talked about this, so forgive me for the diversion. I'll try and edit that out, but no, the reason why, so, I guess I should explain in the time travel. I, I haven't really discussed the time travel, have I? I haven't really discussed the time travel. God damn it. You know what? We'll save that for the DLC, for Futures Past. That's what I'll do. I'll talk about it then. Because my note literally discusses that there. So, anyways, so if I talked about it earlier, forgive me. Anyways. So yeah, the point is Yarn came from a war-torn future, and he's accusing Yarn's husband of cheating. Or, sorry. Pane's husband of cheating. Yeah, that's not gonna fucking fly, Yarn, you stupid irritant. And then, of course, as I said in the rating, the other problem with him is that his character arc keeps resetting with each of these support conversations. Yeah, fuck all that shit. So then we go and recruit Yarn, or Laurent, sorry. So we recruit Yarn, then we go recruit Laurent, who's looking for the thing. I like that Laurent immediately recognizes Crom, and it's like, oh, okay, you're Crom? Alright, and so, how much of this time travel stuff do you know? Oh, Lucina's right over there. Ah, excellent. Excellent. May I join you? Sure. So then we go and recruit Noir. Or, my note says it all. Noir, meek 1 minute, blood and thunder the next. Yeah, Tharja is really, really bad in my opinion, and that kind of negatively affected Noir. Yikes. Then we get Na, who's kind of interesting, and I'm less rapid firing because I don't have much to say about the child units as characters. They're good characters. Moving on. I like that Na tries to be very mature because she effectively couldn't be childish because she had abusive guardians. Ouch, is all I have to say to that. So then we recruit Tiki in a not so great paralogue. And then we go deal with Walhart finally. Walhart prefers meeting his enemies head on, and that's actually kind of cool. But if you confront him with Crom, Walhart says that he wants to be free. Screw the gods, screw being a slave to their will, blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the problem. He's a dictator. In other words, his solution is to simply take away the freedoms from other people. Sorry, Walhart, but no. So then the Dynasts show up and prove that they were afraid of Yin Fei, not Excellus. I also like a line that Wolhart has. It's like, take your head from wherever it's lodged and peer out the window, tactician. Although if you had half the metal of that Elysian tactician, you'd already know what's going on. I like that. A lot of characters seem to acknowledge Robin's abilities. And honestly, I'm here for that. So then we go confront Walhart in his throne room. And then we also deal with Excellus on the way, because there's no way in hell I'm letting Excellus live. Fuck that. He's a Krennic and a moron, and he can just die. So then the war ends, and they need to search for the final gemstone. Valadar says that he's got it, and now he wants to return it. I like that Crom just looks at this and sees right through this so easily. He's aware of Valadar's thinking. He says it himself, and I wrote down the quote. At best, it's selfish political maneuvering at a time when the world can ill afford it. At worst, our run-in with those Risen last time was no accident. Yeah. So we head to Plagia. Lucina has her last flashback. The future is built upon the past, but your kind shall never see it. Looks at Lucina. Your mother and father are dead, tiny one. And now it is your turn to die. Yeah. I can imagine she's probably still having nightmares about that shit to this day. Grima having Valadar's voice is kind of a nifty thing, although I will say that's probably a narrative cheat. Then Valadar just drops all the pretenses and proves that he's a moron. Then he uses the plot contrivance that is his mind control over Robin. Then Frederick encourages Robin to get back on the horse when Robin is basically at his moment of like, I can't be trusted. And then Frederick's like, no, come on, stand back up, Robin. You've been through worse shit than this. Let's go. You've been through shit like like Blue Wolf's phone going off in the middle of a recording, or to say that Laura's live. Hey, finally. Anyways. So then we get Lucina's confrontation with Robin. I like this. I really do. And it fits also. It's even better if Lucina is either Robin's wife, if it's male Robin, or if female Robin is her mother. She can't bring herself to do it. She knows it's murder. She knows it's, patricide or matricide or whatever the spouse version is. But she can't. She can't. She just can't bring herself to do it. And then I like that Crom comes in. You done, Lucina? Father, I can explain. No need. You're not the only one who can eavesdrop, young lady. It's a nice touch. So then we encounter her possessed villagers. Aversa sends the Dead Lords after us. Yay, I've already bitched about that. Then there's narrative cheating. Everything was all according to Keikaku. Then the Crom getting killed cutscene is repeated, and Bosolo reveals, yeah, he's been alive, and Robin swapped had the Fire Emblem swapped. Wait, no, this guy has to be the real one. I like to think that was actually a bluff, by the way. That Valadar was holding the real deal, but it was just Celia was basically just saying all of that to really do that. Then I have Lucina go kill Valadar, and Valadar's just like, impudent meddler! You have failed at every turn. What makes you think this will be different? And Lucina's just like, maybe, but I don't care. Here, I'm not sparing your worthless life. Die, shunk. Then Grima reveals himself. Elf, and reveals that he doesn't understand that this is Type 3 time travel. I said future past, this is a better place to talk about it. So Grima is under the assumption that this is Type 2 time travel. Let me assure you, this is Type 3 time travel. Now, I mentioned this in the rating video, but I better mention it here too. So, if I said this in the first half, please forgive me. There are 3 types of time travel. Type 1, time is a linear line. Okay? Type 1 is time is a linear line. And yes, you can. I like that you can see it. So basically the idea is you change nothing if you time travel. Because everything that has ever happened will always happen. So if you time travel, all you're doing is just simply hitting a loop. Loop, right? All you're doing is just completing a loop. Meanwhile, I'm not doing what I could. Actually, I have a set that I can do that with. So basically what all you're doing with Type 1 time travel is doing this. Forming a loop within the time frame. Because all time travel that you do always happened. In other words, it's the fate concept. I hate Type 1 time travel because nothing you do fucking matters because you're just going to do what you always did and thus nothing will fucking change. They also talk it up like it is Type 1 time travel because time preferring its original course. That's also a lie. Now, Type 2 time travel is where you can alter things. So, for example, okay, so here's the timeline up until the time travel point, right here, right? Now, let's say, for example, this is, this is the timeline of how things always were. We're going to be from that point forward. And then this is your now changed version because this one is an aborted timeline that disappears, right? It vanishes. Well, now, and so all you have is just the now altered timeline. In other words, it's one timeline and you can mold it and it's malleable. That is my preferred method of time travel. Type 3 is multiverse theory. And to quote Dragon Ball Z Abridged, like I did in the ratings video, multiverse theory's a bitch. Basically, the idea is every time you time travel, you're not really time traveling. What you're actually doing is just traveling to another universe. That's it. That's all you're doing. It is lazy because you don't really have to think about it. Not really. So Grima's form is reborn. Robin reveals that he reclaimed the emblem. So then Robin and Grima have a link that is just shows up and goes nowhere. Then we deal with an annoying chapter so that we can meet with Naga, who claims not to be a god because, well, she's a mortal being. She's just a dragon. Really? Ain't really. Then she puts up the idea of Grima would have to kill himself. It's, and also mentions, the chance of survival when they get to Mount Origin. So, yeah. So then we get the spot pass maps opening up, and this is where I did the spot pass maps in the DLC. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I will say Gangrel. Gangrel was interesting to kind of show how much he's fallen. Well, in Irreconcilable Paths was just kind of interesting that Wolhart was too stubborn to die. It's kind of interesting. Then there's Emerin surviving with amnesia. This, in my opinion, completely fucking ruins her sacrifice. Well, I shouldn't say completely, but it definitely lessens the impact of her death. This is also why I do not subscribe to this idea, by the way. Because it just is not cool, in my opinion. And it's also a really terrible map, so there's that. Then there's the Ghost of the Blade. There's a Ghost of a Blade, which was literally which was the Yin Fei recruitment map, which was, hey, let's just confirm again that this is Type 3 time travel. You don't have to hammer it in that fucking much, game. Wellspring of Truth, which has a Versa Survive, which is just terrible in my opinion. It's a good game. It's a good game gimmick, but a Versa was just not a good pick for that. Then we go recruit Ike's Descendant in the Radiant Hero, which is awesome. Then I went and did the DLCs. Old Hubba is terrible because he literally is everything that the Lore Runner accused Abu of being in his rumination of Disney's Aladdin. I don't really agree with that too much. Old Hubba, on the other hand, literally causes problems in the first map. And basically paints Erica as a fucking idiot who won't let Crom get a word in edgewise because Old Hubba's a moron! Moving on. Which, although, speaking of that, we should talk about the Iron Jar. I like the idea of the Iron Jar, mostly because they're facsimiles of the actual characters. That's actually kind of a nifty stuff, and it actually leads to some good tidbits, including the Lin one, which was brilliant. So then there's the Golden Gaff and Exponential Growth, which are interesting, but ultimately the Golden Gaff is the one you will wanting. And Infinite Regula was just hilarious with the Dead Lords talking. Wait, we must interrupt you 4 billion times. It was like, oh my god. I don't know why that didn't get old for me, but it definitely didn't get old. What did get old was all the Iron Jar chapters, which was just, oh my god, can this end already? There's so many of them. There's 12 of these damn things. Yeah, it was getting old by that point. Then there's Death's Embrace, which is kind of a nifty idea. And I posited this idea in the rating, but it bears repeating. The idea of your soul being trapped within within a risen corpse. Sound familiar, Star Trek fans? It should. After all, the Borg have been compared to zombies before. Although they're much worse. It's much worse than zombies, but let's not get into that. Because at least with zombies, you just destroy that. Somebody shoots you in the head and you're free. The Borg, well, you better fucking hope somebody gets you. Because otherwise, you're in for worse if you ever get unassimilated. So then there's the Scrambles, which offer some pretty cool character tidbits and are kind of funny. I will admit, I think they're fine. They're whatever. Get a nice little bit of fan service, and it's equal footing. Two male characters, two female characters. It's nice. Which is funny because you would think Hot Spring Scramble would also be more fan servicey stuff, but no, it's just actually more just kimono stuff. So that's cool. And Harvest Scramble is just nifty little tidbits that you can have. So then we get to the Future Past DLCs, aka, no really, this is Type 3 time travel. I do like the idea of us helping alternate versions of the future. That's kind of neat. I do like that the whole reason Naga picks us is because it's so similar that we would be able to help. I do like that, and I absolutely adore... The one I adore the most, though, is Future Past 3, but I do like the idea that both genders of Morgans are our enemies here. It's actually kind of a neat touch. Then there's the big. Then there's the big epilogue, the big climactic ending and epilogue. I love the scene where Lucina awakens the power of Felshin. I almost kind of wish we could have gotten. Excuse me. We could have had Lucina undergo that and actually have, give her an enchanted Felshin, but maybe that would have been too much overkill. And then we get the epilogue, which is great. Apotheosis is okay, but yeah, no. Future Past 3 is definitely where all the great story stuff is. I also like that Grima's ego backfired on him, by the way. Hey, that was a nice touch. My Robin was male, that's why I'm calling Grima he, by the way. Sorry. So anyways, Robin has his big... So then we go and deal with our version of Grima. Robin has his big despair moment, and the others are calling out to him to encourage him. All the people that you bring with you actually get a line in on there, which is awesome. Then we get the choice of who delivers the final blow. The Crom ending was surprisingly engaging. I actually remember it being tepid and kind of meh, but no, it was actually kind of legit. It was a typical Fire Emblem ending, but yeah, no. And then there was Robin. And then there was everybody's devotion to Robin, with their ending. I also really love the final line Robin says in the whole game. If you pick the Robin ending, may we meet again in a better life. And I love that your chosen voice for Robin even says that out loud. That I liked. Like, if any line deserved to be spoken, it was that. So then Robin is resurrected and we get the bookended cutscene. Crom, we gotta do something. What do you propose we do? I don't know. Oh, I see you're awake now. Hey there. There are better places to take a nap than on the ground, you know. Give me your hand. Close you up. And the Grima mark is gone from Robin's hand. I didn't really talk about it at the beginning, but yeah, the mark during the cutscene, during the first part of the cutscene, the mark is there. The mark of Grima is on Robin's hand. Then, in the ending, in the bookend, it's gone. Indicating that, yeah, Grima is gone. That's a nice touch, and I like that. And then and that's after all of the other blurbs. I do like that. I always have Robin married, so I don't know what it says if Robin is unmarried. But I do love of what the final ending is. So insert your pairing for Robin here, but it's always, they always say that, scholars and historians would disagree on, appearance and yada yada yada, but they agreed on one thing and one thing alone: that they loved their spouse above all else. I love Fire Emblem Awakening, as I have demonstrated in the, hour and a half I've spent on this half of it, which means I've been here for almost as long as I did for fucking Cold Steel 1. Wow! Now I'm curious how I would rate Cold Steel 1, because I'll be honest with you, my Cold Steel 1 video is not getting replaced. I may redo my Sky videos, But I will not redo Cold Steel 1 because I nailed Cold Steel 1 in my opinion. But no, this is good stuff. I stand behind. Oh, did I save that? I did. It is still here. Sweet. I still stand behind this score, by the way. I still stand behind this score. This score is awesome. This is an awesome game. I love the story. The gameplay has a lot of things that I like and a lot of things that I can't stand, but I would still replay this game in a heartbeat. And that's Fire Emblem in a nutshell, right? Great, which is funny because in many ways it feels like Three Houses is going to be the exact opposite. But that's the nature of any game series. There can be ones where you absolutely love it, and then other ones that you absolutely despise. And I hope future Alex remembers to put up a frickin' thing up. But yeah. Alright, so that's it for me. If you have gotten through these 3 hours, I applaud you. Another 3-hour video, but hey, that's the nature of Fire Emblem Awakening and the nature of Cold Steel 1. I can sit here and yap for hours. It just means I can't sit there and yap as long for other ones. Maybe Cold Steel 3, but again, we'll see because I still haven't done that one. Regardless, in like 5 minutes, I'm going to have to start up my stream, so I'm going to do some quick prelim work for that, go get a drink, and I will see you guys around. Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers, signing out. Have a good one.